What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Cryptid Saturday, and today we are going over the Cryptids of Idaho. Now, Idaho's got some, well, from what I can tell, some relatively interesting ones. Maybe it'll go on the Bigfoot tracker, maybe it won't. Let's stay tuned, find out. I want to say it's got like a lake monster though, so I actually found a whole separate article because I wasn't sure if the first one I found actually was going to cover the lake monster, and I wanted to cover it. So we're probably going to end up with two articles today, which is fine. All that being said, though, guys, before we get into this, please remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you never miss another video from me. Also, guys, a lot of times these articles will have great descriptions, but not exactly great pictures. So if you guys would like to draw something up and send it to me, and I'll post it on my Instagram. All that being said, though, guys, let's go ahead and get into this video, the Cryptids of Idaho. Alright guys, like I always like to say, I do not own the rights to these articles. I simply use them to push along information. If you guys would like, please go over here to goatlocal.com as well as boisedev.com and show them some love. But if not, just stick around and we'll go through this together. Legendary Idaho monsters. Bigfoot, lake monsters, and aliens are all critters that make for some great stories. But they aren't unique to Idaho by a long shot. Take a look at these three mysterious beasts found in Idaho that are a little further off the radar than your everyday monsters. I'm just going to let you guys know right now, I am not going to be able to pronounce this correctly. Nymurigar? Similar to Irish legends, the Shoshone tribe tells of a race of little people that are mysterious and dangerous. Some may know them as mountain dwarves that can be found in the Owyhee Mountains in Idaho and the Wind River and Pedro Mountains in Wyoming. The name Nemrigar is derived from different native languages and designates them as cannibals, connecting them to many gruesome tales that come from the Native American folklore. One way the Nemrigar were said to help feed their people was by taking heavy rocks to the skulls of tribe members who would not or could not contribute to the group. So if you got too old, they just ate you. Interesting way to grow up, I suppose. The Nemirar were about 2 or 3 feet tall, had a full row of sharp canine teeth, wielded poisonous arrows shot from tiny little bows, and would often raid and make war on the Shoshone and Paiute. Paiute? 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 I'm sorry. Someone please help me pronounce these things in the comments down below. In Wyoming and Idaho. Parents feared that the Nimrigar would come and kidnap their children. Elders feared they would vex and confound the tribe into self-destruction through tricks, pranks, and setting up innocent people to take the blame for horrific crimes. Eventually, legend tells that the Nimrigar were defeated in an all-out war with more than one of the Native American tribes that dwelt in the Northwest in ages long past. But who knows? Maybe if you go hiking in a remote part of the Owyhee Mountains, you may just find what is left of the little mountain dwarves of Idaho. You know what's funny to me? How there's like always cannibals in like cannibalistic tribes of things on like in like islands in like Native American folklore, like down in it, like in the jungles. There's always you heard stories about like cannibal tribes. Um, Part of me wonders if it's not just like a part of human nature that we eventually eat one another. I mean, cannibalism isn't uncommon in the natural world. You just don't necessarily hear about like people doing it unless it's in stories like these. Or you go down and there's like tribes that have just built like whole bits around it. Um, so if you were to ask me what I think these are, sometime I think it may have been a tribe of real people. It might have been a tribe of dwarves. Like, maybe they just lived in the mountains and they didn't grow very tall. I mean, you don't really need to be tall to live in mountains. As a matter of fact, most things that live in mountains aren't like crazy tall. So, you know, and then if you were to take that into effect, maybe because they lived in the mountains, like finding food wasn't exactly easier, and so they, meat is meat, and they started eating each other. Um, that's just like maybe a background on what it was. Or to be honest, I think these were, at least at some point, probably a real tribe of people. And the story might have gotten a little bit exalted. But hey, you know what? Only way to know is to go back in time. But that's actually really cool, I think. And if they are still around, then don't go walking around the Owyhee Mountains by yourself at night, because that would be a horrible way to go. Water babies. Certain stories of these ghostly beings come from Pocatello, Massacre Rocks, and other areas near that region of Idaho. Another Shoshone legend that this one tells of the tribe enduring tribulation and famine. A handful of mothers, driven mad by the hardship, set their children afloat on the nearby streams and rivers, intending to give their babies a kinder fate than starvation. But as legend has it, the babies never drowned at all. Instead, they adapted and survived, learning to swim and breathe water from the local wildlife. Growing scales, fins, gills, and tails, they learned to eat fish, bugs, tadpoles, and all manner of slimy, undesirable creatures. Eventually, these water babies grew up, and when they did, they remembered the deeds of their mothers and deemed them wicked. These water babies were then taken by evil spirits in their anger and desire for vengeance. They began to thirst for the blood of living people, luring many unfortunate souls to remote and hidden streams with joyful cooing of innocent babies or the tinkling laughter of a beautiful woman. That's almost like the Native American version of sirens. I was gonna say that it almost sounds like mermaids or kappa in like Japanese like folklore, and the kappa is something we'll have to go over eventually. I don't know what these could be. Like, I believe the story that inspired them was probably true. Like, these mothers probably did send their babies down the streams just to basically prevent them, just like giving them a quicker death than starving. And God, is that sad. Um, because I couldn't imagine doing that, like, as a parent. I honestly couldn't. But like, what these things could be from like a natural standpoint, I mean, honestly, I think it's just a the only thing that logically comes to my brain is people. You know what I mean? Like people that like people go lost, get lost in the woods or drown in streams and stuff, and then oh well, the water babies got them because like the legend just built up over the years. But this is a really sad story, so I don't want to like discredit it. I mean, if these beings are real, then that's like a really painful way to turn into these things. So I mean, I don't know. Like that one's kind of sad actually. Here we go. Swan Valley Monster. Much like Charlie the Bear Lake Monster, the Swan Valley Monster is an ugly creature that reportedly smells awful. It is said to have been spotted in a river near Olds Ferry on the Idaho-Wyoming border back in the 1960s. Or is said to have been spotted in a river near Olds Ferry on the Idaho-Wyoming border back in the 1860s. The best part of this strange beast is how it's supposed to look. An elephant-like trunk connected to a serpentine head with webbed spiny fins protruding from its neck, black whiskers covering the side of its face, 10-inch razor-sharp fangs, a single black horn on its head, and a red forked tongue which could shoot poison. The reptilian skin of its head is said to be mottled yellow and black, the rest of its body being dull and gray. Its full length is supposedly more than 20 feet, with porcupine-like spikes protruding from its spine from the head all the way down to the tail. Its body itself is like an alligator, but thicker and rounder, like you'd see on a horse or cow. It had several pairs of legs, alternating between hooved and clawed feet as they went along the length of the beast's underside. There was even a battle between this creature and the men who saw it. It emerged from the river near a group of frontiersmen traveling along the river. One of them, panicked by the monster's appearance, shot it in the eye. It spewed poison and bellowed as it thrashed around its death agonies. Anything the poison touched withered away and died. The stench is overpowering, and the men raced to the nearest town to prepare a wagon and bring the body back to study it. Upon their return to the scene of the fight, the creature had slunk back to the river. If you go out in the wilderness to engage with nature during a long mountain hike, deep woods camping, and enjoy the water, keep your eyes open and your phones and cameras sharp. There are lots of mysterious creatures out there. Maybe you can get a photo of the Idaho cryptid that will change history. And then there's apparently $1,000 photo contest if you guys want. I don't know what that thing is. To be honest with you, I can't think of a single one thing that you could blame that on. And that might just be the trick. It may have just been an exacerbated story that just combined the elements of like a bunch of different things and just kind of shoved them all together, kind of like a chimera. But to be honest with you guys, I'm actually stumped for once. I know most of the time I can give like some kind of like a weird off the wall explanation that may or may not be this thing. But if that thing's real, God help us, because it sounds horrible. Okay, so here's the second article that I wanted to go over, guys, and this is actually about Charlie the Lake Monster. Okay, So this was the other cryptid that I knew was really big and famous in Idaho, so I really wanted to cover it. So yeah, let's get into this. Inside Idaho's famous lake monster, does Charlie really exist? Deep down in the dark waters of Payette Lake lurks the legend of McCall's very own Loch Ness monster. Growing up, my imagination went wild as I pictured what she looked like and hoped for a glimpse of the elusive creature as I stared out at the calm waters. Formed by a glacier, the lake spans nearly 8 square miles and reaches 392 feet at its deepest point, the perfect habitat for a big lake creature. The Native Americans who once spent summers in Long Valley were said to fear the calm, seemingly bottomless waters of the lake, telling stories of an evil spirit that lurked in its hidden depths. The first sighting of something strange lurking in the lake happened in 1920 when railroad workers thought they saw a huge log floating in the water. The log began to move forwards. Then the log began to undulate. The Visit McCall site notes of the supposed sighting. Then the log created its own wake as it rapidly left the area. More than 20 years later, in 1944, there was another sighting near the Narrows, the rocky and narrow passage between the north and south side of the lake near Ponderosa Park. Witnesses said the creature was at least 35 feet long, with a dinosaur-type head, pronounced jaw, humps like a camel, and shell-like skin. This sighting made national news, and the creature, then coined Slimy Slim, was the main character of the August 1944 Time magazine. The infamous sea monster was then supposedly seen many times in 1954, and that's when residents decided she needed a better name. That's when the Star News of McCall held a naming contest. The winner, Charlie. While dozens of sightings have been reported over the last century, no official evidence proves she exists, but that doesn't mean she doesn't either. So, yeah, the sightings picked up because it ended up in the paper, so you probably had a bunch of people out there actually actively looking for it. But, I mean, I don't know. See, the fun part about it is it's a glacier lake, okay? And, like, I don't think that it's connected to the ocean. You know what I'm saying? It's in Idaho. It could be, but I doubt it is. Yeah, we can look it up. What's the name of the lake? Yeah, okay, guys. So like, this is a legit glacier lake. Okay. So I went ahead and pulled it up. This here is Payette Lake, and quite frankly, I mean, it doesn't make sense to be any type of surviving water creature like a dinosaur cryptid, that kind of thing, because it's just look like it's in Idaho. Idaho is a landlocked state, and there's no real way. You know what I mean? Like it's a glacier lake, so that means like a glacier carved the lake and then it filled with water over the time that it was there. So I doubt like that's any kind of a real natural explanation. But directly below that, there's one here that straight up says other explanations for Charlie. So let's go ahead and see what they think. I don't really know what kind of wildlife is in the lake, so my first thought I want to say is generally like I jump to like sturgeon and stuff, but I doubt there's sturgeon in here. So let's see if what they think it could be. That's wicked. It's like the Chinese dragons, but it's in Idaho. Many theories have been floating around the town since Charlie's first sighting. One of those is that a sturgeon migrated up the Snake River to the Payette River and into the lake. This would have had to happen before the Snake River dams were built in the late 1970s. Sturgeons can reach up to 8 feet long, weigh over 300 pounds, and live for over 55 years, according to Fish and Aquatic Conservation. Lake sturgeon are a migratory species and move back and forth between lakes and large river systems. Over the years, many have reported spotting large waves in the middle of the lake, with no boats or other forces to cause them. This has led many to believe in Charlie's existence. However, there is a scientific explanation that could explain these waves, a weather phenomenon called a cyc, which is a standing wave that happens when rapid changes in atmospheric pressure push water from one end of a body of water to the other. So like I said, sturgeon. You know, what it could be is maybe a surviving population of sturgeon, like a relic population that managed to make it into the lake and has been reproducing there, but it's not like big enough to where you would catch it all the time. And by no means was that a small lake. Okay. And it's really, really unlikely that it's a sturgeon because I mean people probably would have caught them in the lake by now. But I mean, you never know. Maybe it was though. Like the last reported I don't know when the last reported sighting of this thing was, but like obviously the big ones were a long time ago. So maybe it's just not, maybe there was a relic population and now it's just gone. Like maybe they just bred each other out or they all just died. So that's kind of an interesting explanation. Just like a basically a landlocked population of sturgeon. Like they got into the lake and then they couldn't get out. All right, so it said Charlie, a symbol of McCall. In the town of McCall, you will find her legend lives on at events like the McCall Winter Carnival Parade and as an ice sculpture every year. She shows up in the name of businesses on restaurant menus like the Charlie Burger at my father's place, and even on the name of the Shore Lodge summer camp. In 2007, Boisian Linda Johnson published the book Charlie, an imaginative tale for anyone who can still see the magic and beauty abounding in our natural world. The non-fiction book paints an imaginative picture of Charlie's life. As a result of the many sightings and theories around the mysterious lake creature, she has become an icon in McCall. Whether you think you've spotted her or, like me, have walked the shoreline hoping for a glimpse, the local legend continues to spark mystery and imagination 100 years later. And there you have it, guys. Those were some of the cryptid stories from Idaho. Honestly, I'm a little kind of depressed about the water babies. Like, they actually made me sad, and it was just like the situation on which they were born made me sad. Uh, and yeah, though, but yeah, let me know down below if you guys have ever seen any of these particular cryptids that we went over. If you guys ever seen Charlie, I would really like to know. Did you guys know about any of these before watching this video and reading these articles with me? I would also like to know that too, and I would love any kind of pictures that you guys would like to draw and send to me. Those would honestly just make my day. And yeah, guys, without further ado, as I said before, please remember, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and follow me on all my other social medias, which are going to be coming up after this. And until next time, guys, I will see you next Saturday for Cryptid Saturdays.